accidentally touched a grill one time?
Yeah.
Man, just a fraction of a second, and you're hurting for days, right?
Yes.
Imagine an eternity of that.
Right.
Thank you.
Not a place that you want to go. Not many people preach on hell.
Come on now.
But let me tell you, you don't want to go there.
No way out.
And so here we have a soul-winning call from the pits of hell. Now, look with me at Acts chapter 16. Verse 6. Paul and his companions traveled throughout the region of Phrygia and Galatia, having been kept by the Holy Spirit from preaching the word in the province of Asia. When they came to the border of Mysia, they tried to enter Bithynia, but the Spirit of Jesus would not allow them to. You know how you know I'm a good preacher? Because I can pronounce all those names. Verse 8. So they came by Mysia and went down to Troas. During the night, Paul had a vision of a man of Macedonia, standing and begging him, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." After Paul had seen the vision, we got ready at once to leave for Macedonia, concluding that God had called us to preach the gospel to them. So, Macedonia was an area that no one had ever gone to preach before. They had never heard the gospel. No one in Macedonia was a Christian. They were all heathen. Heathen may not be a politically correct word nowadays. But a heathen is simply somebody who doesn't know Jesus. Anybody that doesn't know Jesus is a heathen. So here we have this man from Macedonia. He's a heathen, and he comes to Paul in the middle of the night, and he has one cry for help. He says, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." And so here we have a soul-winning cry from the heathen. And tonight I want to amplify for you the voices of heathens, people that have never heard about Jesus. You saw in the video the nation of Nepal. Nepal is the birthplace of Buddha. Nepal has been bound by Hinduism for thousands of years. And in the nation of Nepal, there are many people that don't know Jesus. And because of that, there's many problems. The whole society, they worship over 300 million gods that they worship. That's one for every person in this country.
Hey, Lord.
Yeah. If you need another God, we got another God for you. Not one of them can help you, but we got one for everybody. And so, here in the nation of Nepal, my wife Jessica, she was a missionary there back in 2001. She lived there for 6 months. And while Jessica was living there, it was impossible to preach the gospel. She had to stay inside her house in Kathmandu, in the capital, almost the entire time because there were riots in the street. The Christians were scared. They wouldn't go out and share the gospel because they were scared for their lives. But now, the Hindu kingdom of Nepal has fallen. And it has a change in government. And so for the first time in history, now the doors are starting to open up in the nation of Nepal. And there are reports of an entire tribe and entire villages that are coming to Jesus.
Praise God. Hallelujah.
And those people that are crying out for help, this man of Macedonia came to Paul in the middle of the night. He said, "Come, please, come over here to Macedonia and help us." And so if we would open our ears, we would be able to hear the voices of the heathen, those who don't know Jesus. And you know what they would be saying? They would be saying, "Come and help us.
Yeah.
We need some help.
Praise
Please,
God.
we don't know what to do. Our society has struggled with war. We struggle with depression. Our marriages are falling apart. Please come and help us. We've got tribes. They're fighting together. We don't know how to stop." Because, see, anywhere where the devil is, he comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. And so Satan will just take a society and just slap them back and forth, back and forth. And for centuries, They just get pressed down farther and farther and farther. And these people, they're crying out for help. They're saying, please, come here and help us. So here we have a soul-winning cry from the heathen. Now let's look over at Mark chapter 16, verse 15. I'm glad that Dr. Jack at least left me a few scriptures I could preach from. He read it once, but since this is a missions conference, I think it's worth reading again. Mark chapter 16, verse 15. Jesus said to the disciples, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." Right at the end of each gospel is a divine mandate, a commission, where Jesus says to go, to make disciples, to go into all the world. And so, at the end of each gospel, we've got this mandate, and then again at the beginning of the book of Acts, Acts chapter 1, verse 8, he said, "But you shall receive power after the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you shall be witnesses unto me in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the uttermost end of the earth." And so, between the time that Jesus rose from the dead and the time that he ascended up into heaven, Jesus had one thing on his mind. And that one thing that Jesus had in his mind was the divine instruction from heaven, the divine instruction from his Father, the last thought, the last instruction that he was going to leave with his disciples. And that last thought was, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Everyone say, go.
Go.
As Dr. Jack said, there's goers and there's senders, but according to this verse, we should all be goers. Amen? Amen. And so this is a soul-winning cry from heaven. We've got a soul-winning cry from hell, soul-winning cry from the heathen, and a soul-winning cry from heaven. It was the last instruction from heaven that Jesus gave to his disciples. And this has been